session is being recorded, so just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And this is a campaign event essentially, and majority of the early campaign events that I will have would be listening, hopefully. And we have developed certain priorities for the city of Overland Park during the last 4 years that I have been sitting on the council. But for sure, I want to recheck that with the people of Overland Park, with whoever is interested, to make sure that the priorities that I have heard and I have taken down in my notes, and when people came in the council and they expressed their views, is still valid. So for during the next couple of events, majority of the idea would be for you to speak and for me as a candidate for mayor to listen. Having that said, one of the important issues that we have had is this level of disagreement that I have seen between a group of our constituents in terms of where they want to see their city to go, with attention to the historic aspects and heritage aspects of Overland Park versus the wave of development. And that during the last 4 years came to crash quite a few times. There was a significant level of discussion, sometimes heated, sometimes very passionate, about a simple question: what are you doing to my city? And where is the Overland Park that I grew up with? And where is it going? What is the trajectory, and what are the reasons for some of the changes? So what we want to accomplish here tonight is to hear from you about where do you think is the role of the history in the future of Overland Park in the context of local government. So I hope that majority of the discussion would be over where a municipal government could have a role. And one of the most important things that the municipal government has a big say in it is the land use. What is going to be built where, in what corner of your town. And that is in direct relationship with the character of a city and where a city is going to be and how it's going to look in, for example, 20 years. There is a 8-minute video that I'm going to play, and it's a gentleman named Steve, I believe, that I have never met, but he's driving around downtown Overland Park, and it's very interesting just how he looks at it from somebody that I don't think he lives in Overland Park. He's enthusiastic to drive around different towns in Kansas and just like an average person, and just report how he feels. So let's together take a look at that. It's a short video, and then I'll explain my first interaction with where the history or demands of the people were coming face to face with development, very short, and then I will look more than forward to listen to your opinions, and maybe by that time.
Nothing, just watching a thing with Faris Farassati. What's going on?
So,
So,
all right. So, okay, let's take a look at this, if you may, and then we will continue. You guys all see this? Well, you are mute. You are mute.
Us on a little exploration of Overland Park, Kansas. Overland Park, Kansas, otherwise, other than being known as a kind of a bedroom suburb of Kansas City, it's probably one of the fastest growing cities in the Kansas City area. And Overland Park does have a downtown, which I'm on. And this road that I'm on is actually the Santa Fe Trail. It's a really nice morning. The reason Overland Park has its name is back in the 1800s when people traveled, to the west, the expanding United States. There were two ways to go. One way was kind of hazardous.
Did we lose volume, Faris?
We did lose volume.
Yep.
You might want to start that over, and you should be able to full screen it too.
Okay, who's good at lip reading? You can narrate.
About 1950 when the suburbs started booming. And now Overland Park is a fairly good sized city. And I talk a lot about the auto trails. And this is the final branch of the Jefferson Highway right here, Metcalf, heading straight south. You know, the original Kansas City Road actually follows roughly along I-35, and that was the military road, and this is the road that sort of replaced that, the Jefferson Highway, and that was right before it was the original path they wanted to take, but it wasn't finished enough for their liking, so they took a more meandering but more finished route to the west at first, and then eventually Metcalf became Jefferson Highway. Anyway, I'm going to take the doggies out for a little walk and see what we can see. You know, even today, Overland Park, even downtown, is growing, as we can see. Park right up here. See how long? 2 hour parking. Good. Park right up here and walk the doggies. So, woohoo, my doggies.
Small businesses still wasting valuable time writing and sending checks to vendors each month? Then listen up.
And I can see here that the markers were placed along the trail. This is the easternmost marker here. It is a blessing to have such well-trained dogs. It is amazing how fast it's grown in such a short period of time. That's pretty neat. I am a big fan of mid-century modern and the signage of that era, which is called Googie, or sometimes known as doo-wop or populux, more closely associated to 1950s space age. Everything is great, the future is bright kind of imagery. And Overland Park has a great example here. This Chinese restaurant here, Dragon Inn. Love this sign. This is great. William B. Strang Jr., 1857 to 1921, founder of Overland Park. You know, most people in this area sort of take for granted this place has a history. The history is actually pretty interesting. It's like everywhere. You know, we drive by it every day. We don't even think, we don't even look. It's a great thing to take the time once in a while and get out of your car and walk around and explore a bit. And the doggies sure love it. Overland Park. Should give it a visit sometime. All these shops are closing. I wonder if that's because they're building a lot of condos, and who knows? Looks like they may be getting ready to tear all this down and build condos here. And let's not forget the Rio. Overland Park has a beautiful old theater. It's currently closed right now. They're repairing a sewer line. They plan on announcing their reopening soon. But, I noticed the shops on the other side of this are also closing and moving out, so no wonder. You should always appreciate things while they're here, because you never know. It may not be here forever. Let's hope that's not the case for the Rio, because this is a beautiful building. Look at that. Streamlined modern design. Well, we're going to end our tour of Overland Park here on Metcalf. Also, the last version of the Jefferson Highway before it was replaced by the U.S. Highway. And, I hope this was enlightening and accurate, but if it's not accurate, please let me know in the comments. Also share and subscribe to these videos. The more I see it, the more people show they appreciate it, the more I'll do it. And if you have any ideas or suggestions, just let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you.
All right. Okay. Now we are back, right? Okay. So, you guys hear me? All right. So I just wanted to read you one quote by Martin Luther King Jr. He says, "We are not makers of the history, we are made by history." And I think that's, when you look at the famous quotes about the history, you usually see two sides of extremes. Some people like, for example, quotes that says, "I would rather think about the future than look into history." Those quotes are available too. But I think, it's quite obvious that history acts for us as a mirror, and we could see where we are coming from and where we are going in the history. And then I paid attention to the fact that Overland Park is a young city in terms of what we consider as history with 60 years. But that doesn't mean that we should ignore the characteristics of it and the heritage of it. In no shape, I think that should essentially be forgotten and not paid attention to. The last point I wanted to make, as somebody who has lived in Overland Park for 12 years, not 50 years, is that those of us who have a connection to more historic countries, for example, me, as I was born and raised in Iran, in Persia, we have noticed how lack of attention to history can cause issues in the future of a society. When the checks and balances on a harmony in terms of development of a city are taken away, even a city which has thousands of years of history essentially comes to a conflict with each other. The harmony is necessary with a vision towards the past. And also, I believe we all appreciate that an attention to the past does not mean that you are not going to go and progress towards future. If anything, it would help you to plan wisely and to use history now as a scientific basis of what could come to you based on your planning. Because you look at what happened during the past times when your government, your society took certain decisions, and you could either avoid them, or if they were very successful, you could duplicate them. So in my view, history is not something that, if you are paying attention to it, would be inhibitory to your future development and to a good and prosperous future for you as an individual with your family history, or your city or a state or country. And I'm glad that I live in America, which there is a lot of attention paid to the history, and even mechanisms exist to preserve historical sites, such as historic preservation tax credits that states offer. I mean, there are certain areas, and I'm not 100% sure if they exist in Overland Park or not, but they exist in Kansas City, Missouri, that they call them contributing neighborhoods. And if you wanted to renovate a certain parcel or certain property, if you keep certain characteristics, they will offer an assistance to you, an incentive to you to not destroy the history, but respect it, cherish it, and develop with an eye on the historic characteristic. Troost Avenue is a good example of a historic preservation area. So that means that even within the structure of our government, there is attention to it. So I'm going to finish my comments by reminding you of one of the times that I found myself on the side of the people was through the redevelopment of the Thompson Park, as it is called right now, and the Santa Fe Park. And that was the most, in my opinion, obvious situation when the municipal government wanted to redo a park, and there was a generous gift from a family, which was very appreciable, but it came down to a very heated encounter about a gazebo that people had history with it. They had the pictures of their kids, the weddings of their kids, the pictures of grandkids, their own weddings there, a lot of things happening there, and they didn't want that gazebo. It might be very simplistic, but it was important to them, and I could understand it. Because again, the emotional attachment to that was quite obvious, and the city's plan wanted to eradicate that and put toilets there. I'm sorry to say, and I was really trying. There was a significant level of conversation if the community knew about it and they were informed, and they were constantly on the path that we were not informed, we didn't know, and I was on the path to say, okay, let's pause this development. This is not a third party, this is not a private company which is going to lose money if we paused it. They have bought the material, they want to go ahead, they are in contract with a builder. This is essentially our bosses, being the people, telling us that they are not satisfied in terms of the level of communication that they have received. And we couldn't make that point. We just could not make that point. The plans went ahead and that gazebo was eradicated out, and I just never found the reason that gazebo couldn't be preserved, could not be rejuvenated, and we would make whatever we wanted to make somewhere else. And then you constantly were on this conversation that, oh, well, these people are naysayers. And, there was a lot of finger pointing as if they wanted to stop the rejuvenation of the park. And that was not the case. So it is lack of paying attention to what people say, not listening to it. Then it came with me during the consequent years when people were saying one thing, and the status quo in Overland Park government was completely either not listening, or they would hear something else, either intentionally or unintentionally. Then it came the battle over Arboretum. The Arboretum, all people were saying is that this is Arboretum for watching birds, watching plants, watching flowers, having weddings, having sculpture museums. That's all fine. You want to spend on the visitor center and make it bigger, it's absolutely okay. But please don't throw 3,000, 4,000 people concerts here. I don't want a rock concert there. It's an arboretum. There are private venues that you have incentivized. They can hold 10,000 people concerts. Don't put it in my arboretum. And what we heard again back from a number of these lawmakers was that, no, you are against the visitor center. I spent about 2 hours with certain leaders trying to make this connection that the objection is not towards the visitor center. It's about the arboretum and the role of the arboretum. And arboretum by itself is also a heritage for us in Overland Park. It's not historic, but it's heritage. So again, no, the plan went ahead with a big concert venue, and then Corona came and somewhat put an end to that plan. So what I'm trying to ask you guys to comment is that, where do you see the history in the future of Overland Park? Where should you pay attention? And the question I put on my flyer was that we have a planning commission. Planning commission is a group of citizens, okay? There is no council member there. And I had put this question forward to the community. We have a historical society of Overland Park. It's an expanded group, extremely dedicated to the history and heritage of Overland Park. I met with them, I believe, 3 years ago, and I appreciate their efforts. And one of the questions I had is that, should they have a seat at that planning commission? It's a number of people, I believe. So one seat can be easily, in my opinion, could be hypothetically given to this historical society in terms of having a voice on planning. If you are planning to allow this neighborhood to become an apartment development, if you're planning to put this storage unit in the middle of this residential neighborhood, this is all history. History is not something definitely that only happens in a battleground. Your neighborhood has a history. Your neighborhood has is cohesive, develops memories, and if they are going to be erased by a rush of overdensity, is that a good idea? So with that being said, I'm going to also introduce two candidates for City Council who have joined us today. That is Ms. Sheila Rodriguez, that is running for a seat, hi Sheila, for Ward 5, and Mr. Scott Mosher, who's running for a seat in Ward 4. And Councilman Scott Hamblin, who's the Councilman for Ward 6, have also joined us. So what I'm going to try to achieve is that please go ahead and just unmute yourself and express your views if you have any views, and then we ask our candidates and it's a free conversation back and forth. Anybody who wants to talk, go ahead. But let us hear about what you think about history and where Overland Park is going in your opinion. Who wants to be first?
I can say something first if you want, even though my duty here was kind of just to sit and listen with you. I get to bounce.
No, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I bounce ideas off Faris every day. I mean, and clearly I support him for mayor. And
oh, you do?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So, and just, I'll hit two things real quick. Going back to when I was first seated at the council, was this Arboretum thing. And it was astonishing to me. I truly couldn't believe it. It is not at all the discussion I expected to happen at city council after all these we went through. Faris and I, and I'm sure other council members, I had met with the neighbors multiple times. And discussed this with the city, and they even had a public meeting. But like you said, what they heard is not at all how the situation came out. We go into this meeting, they have a public hearing. I think it was the Arboretum folks that went first, and they simply said, we need this visitor center. They just don't want the visitor center across from their house. And I was shocked. I was like, that is not the basis of this discussion whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, that's an aspect of it too. But the other is the commission that we're talking about, the planning commission, is a 11 seat planning commission. So, as I've heard Dr. Farassati say, I mean, I like the idea of getting some diverse opinions on there. If he were to become mayor and just sit down and interview 11 people and find the most like-minded ones, well, then we might as well have a kiosk in the lobby. And I've heard him say that, which is, that's the direction I think we're not looking to continue the city. But just a thought I'd throw out there is, see if anyone wants to build off that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can, from my perspective, I'm Sheila Rodriguez. I think it should be a team effort between our local government committees like the Planning Commission and its residents. I often wonder about the HOAs even. I think we've got over 150 HOAs that are within Overland Park. And I often wonder if that relationship with the city couldn't be stronger so that that voice, is elevated. I know me personally, I'm running for city council because I've been frustrated with the city's unwillingness to listen to residents over the past few years. And I believe that our council members, and Dr. Farassati and Mr. Hamblin are the exception to this, but you know, some of our other council members, I feel, have a responsibility to support the people who elected them and be their voice at that meeting and come together for an alignment of common goals and objectives that make the city better. And, you know, when we had this issue come up a couple weeks ago with waste management and the 2-week pickup for recycling in the larger containers, and there was this tremendous amount of feedback provided to the city, and they listened and applied pressure, if you will, on a private company or a vendor who does business in the city, but yet sometimes we're not as effective in listening to the residents for something so important like preserving a piece of our history that gazebo meant to some, or the purpose for the arboretum. So I think there's this imbalance, as you spoke of, that you know, I look forward to helping to kind of balance out. But I do agree that we need to preserve some of that history and really listen to the residents if they have some justified reasons for why they believe what they do or want to preserve what they want to preserve.
I think there's a middle ground to be met. And one thing I was going to throw in there from what you started out, and don't quote me on this, but you mentioned HOAs, and from what I've gathered, which is an excellent point, is that would seem like the common sense, easiest way to organize people and get opinions. But HOAs file with the county, from what I understand. So, you know, if that would be something fantastic that, you know, one of us, somebody, I mean, I volunteer, Sheila,
I volunteer
to take on is to organize that information and something that the city can use, because I've heard it mentioned before, well, we don't have that information. Well, the county does, because the developer must file it. So, you know, I just thought I'd throw that out there as that seems like a common sense solution to gather public voice, and it's, you know, it's something we should look at.
All right, who else we got?
Speaking of HOAs, this is Randy Coleman. As far as the HOAs, I think the city could certainly do a lot better job of meeting in the middle with HOAs and opening up communication. That's where it all starts, communication. The representatives, you know, of each ward could, I think, do a better job of getting out and meeting with their HOAs. Some of their key residential areas, and so that we get to know them and see what's on their agenda, and them become more attentive and demonstrate attentiveness towards the communities and the residences. Communication is the key, and we just, my neighborhood, we're one of the largest ones in Overland Park, and we really don't have a connection with the city. And we just resolved an issue, thankfully. Dr. Farassati and Mr. Hamlin, a couple of others were key in us being successful in bridging the gap that we experienced. So I'm totally indebted to the work that's going on right here because of that. And I think it just proved itself to us. And as a result, the neighbors that I'm working with pretty actively now have a better opinion and feeling towards city council and them working with us as a result of what just transpired. So if you could just do more of that, be more attentive and show the desire to work with us and communicate and see what's on our minds, all the better.
Well, and can I ask you a question, Randy?
Sure.
Are you on the HOA?
I am now. I wasn't when we first started our endeavor.
That's what I was going to say is I know when some of these issues come in front of city council, they like to have somebody speak for a group, but that's where another place HOAs had come in handy. You know, it seems to usually be the one willing to step up, which it sounds like it was you in that case. But there probably was no communication to your actual HOA. Would that be a correct assumption?
Communication to the HOA in what regard? Just make sure I understand what.
Like, did they? What
the city and the HOA?
Did they reach out to the HOA president, or did they just look for, try and find, come to you because you were willing to stand up and?
No, they did. Boy, not to dominate this discussion here, but anyway, with our situation, there was a letter that came out years ago. I mean, the endeavor the issue that we were dealing with began over 8 years ago. So there was HOA communication, and there was some deliberation and so forth, but it started off in a defensive mode on both sides, and it remained that way. There was a lot of finger pointing, and it got worse before it got better. So anyway, we were able to come through on this thing, and we had to take this on outside of our HOA. We had to do it on our own because of the guidelines and the restrictions that we had and so forth and so on. So for various reasons, but anyway, so it became an issue where the HOA couldn't get involved in, but the communication started there, but it was sort of a core group of us that it was addressing, and we had to do it on our own. But,
okay.
The communication that we did have was very blunt, and here's the way it's going to be, kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
Faris, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I have to apologize for the group for incoming phone call. I'm just learning this Zoom thing myself, so bear with me there. But I was the president of our homeowners association in Olathe for, I guess, probably about 11 years. And one of the things that I did as a president of the homeowners association was reach out to our local council representative, and we had an issue where they were going to put storage units right across from, not directly near our development, but next to the development to the north of us, and they asked us.
Turning of the light bulbs, the.
Go ahead, Scott.
But anyway, we got together with the other homeowners association, and we went to the council, we went to the meetings, we did the same thing that Randy did with the fence at the golf course. The difference was that city council listened and the planning commission listened. And when we talk about history, and we have a history of people that don't listen to the people that put them there, I moved to Overland Park because of the history. I moved to Olathe because of the history. When I was looking to move into this area from Las Vegas, when I was transferred out here from work, I sought out the history of where should I live? And if the history is going to change from what I was told and what I've experienced, then I probably would move elsewhere. If I knew that there were a ton of apartments being built and condos out of, like downtown areas or residential areas, I probably would move somewhere else where, I could have that, family atmosphere. And don't get me wrong, I live in an apartment. I live across from Lady Sykes Golf Course, and it fits my lifestyle right now. We downsized from Olathe, and there's good people in apartments, but at the same time, our history is one of a type of a community where we have a higher income of houses and things like that we got to protect from a history standpoint. and we still have to be progressive. But all that can be worked out when the council and the people making the decisions listen to the people that they represent. And that's why I'm running. And Sheila, you said it better than I probably could say. When I saw the things that are going on, from chip seal to lights and all the changes they're making, and not getting input from the people that it's going to affect, I have to take some action. When I see with first responders the same thing, and I don't want to, do a campaign speech here, but when I see the way they treated first responders and made the statement, well, they knew what they were getting into when they become a first responder, that just infuriated me, because it's something none of us could have ever expected. So history is important. It's important. It's the reason why we moved here in the first place. We need to be conscious of our history and where we're going in the future, so that we don't disappoint the people that moved into our fine city. And I think that, from adding someone to a planning commission with that type of knowledge and voice is perfect. And as our future moves forward, we need to have people that listen. And HOA, Sheila, is the best way to do that. I don't remember the exact number you said, 145 homeowners associations. That represents a lot of people, and that's where I plan on going. That's who I'm going to talk to, just like the representative when I was the president came to and asked our opinion on things that the city was facing, even to the point of a tax increase, a mill levy increase. But they had specific things that they wanted to accomplish, and some of them made sense and some of them didn't to us based on our place of residence. So we need to listen. And if we have a mayor that listens, we have a council that listens, and we may not always agree with each other, but at least we've listened, we've thought it through, we've given it everybody a chance to speak, and then we make a decision based on what's best for the city, and that's what we need to do.
The day we all agree is the day we must have a perfect city, which is could be a while. It's too bad those first responders didn't tell us about COVID when they knew they were getting into it, right?
That's right. Well, I can tell you, my son Mike, a week before he died, went through the process. He arrested a lady that had COVID, and he got stripped down and washed up and had new clothes and had to go through that whole process. And of course, we'll never know, but the bottom line is that's what they're faced with still every single day. And yet we expect them to just do that without compensation, without being fair, and all the things that, I'm not going to rehash. But if we have a good, solid first responder program from fire, police, medical, we're going to have a community that people want to move into. Just like we moved in because of a good history, we need to continue that history. We need to continue to make it a fine place to live. And I want people to want to move here because it's safe and they know they're going to be taken care of.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. Anybody else before I show you one more screen?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Yes, please, Michael.
I'm going to speak. So my name is Mike Chernevsky. I ran for city council in 2007. I ran for the state senate in 2016. I may consider another run this year in Ward 1. And I want to just echo what everyone has been saying about how they feel the city council has ignored its residents and everything. And I think that's just wrong. I happen to live next to an example of the city council not listening. So 2 years ago, there used to be an empty field next to my house in historic Overland Park, and the street, and everyone on my street was against these houses being built and everything. And we feel that the council ignored us. And all that's and I totally understand the points. We need to find a proper balance between history and progress, especially in this parts of the city in Ward 1 and everything. And regardless of what happens, I hope that that's future councils and future mayors can keep that in mind. And I would not mind seeing the Historical Society being a part of that process.
Did you run in, it's not ward, what's the word I'm looking for? 8,
I live in Ward 1.
No, when you're in for state?
Oh, Senate 21.
21, okay.
Yeah, that's the seat that Dinah Sykes is in now. So
okay, yeah, I was actually watching an old YouTube video with you on it last night. What are the odds of that?
Oh, nice.
Let me share this screen with you about a quote about the view and the vision of the one of the founding fathers of the Overland Park, William B. Strang. So it is from our website at the opkansas.org that he envisioned do you see this screen, everybody? A self-sustaining, well-planned park-like community, okay, that had a strong commerce, quality education, vibrant neighborhoods, convenient transportation, and accommodating recreational facilities, all amenities that today make Overland Park great. So now, when we look at it from this perspective, park-like community is essentially a place of a level of quiet and relaxation. Usually, when you look at the term park, a concrete jungle does not come in front of your eyes, usually. Usually, park is a green area, which is somewhat peaceful and somewhat quiet, and you are in communication with the nature, and you go back to feel the nature and escape, essentially, the concrete jungles for 30 minutes in that park with your family. And that is a part of the heritage of the Overland Park. That is what this suburban city has tried to offer to the people who are asking the question, why should I live in Overland Park? I believe on the top is the quality of public education, which brings people here. But this is also important. They are coming to a place that is peaceful. Now, what I have seen, and I want to put this question to you, is that a number of council members have made comments referring to Overland Park as a sleepy community, as a drowsy community, as a bed and breakfast community, which to this point, I don't understand neither the scientific meaning of it, nor if a quiet and peaceful community could be insulted by a term such as a sleepy community. What does that mean, sleepy community? So, and then the decisions are justified on the basis that we want to turn this sleepy community upside down and urbanize it, significantly urbanize it. So what I want to ask you, everybody here, is that how is that in harmony with heritage and history and Overland Park and the view of its founders as a park-like community that you go and you raise your kids in peace and a level of getting away from what, for example, a very noisy downtown could offer to you. I propose that as a relevant question if anybody wanted to share their opinion.
Well, I'm not certain. This is Kelly, by the way.
Kelly, hi.
I'm not certain if this is particularly on your thoughts right now, but something I've been wanting to jump in and say real quick. Is there any way to talk about making areas of Overland Park historic areas.
Reserved.
You know, and when that happens, I think that the Historical Society would have a lot more ammunition when it comes to things such as, tearing down, building up. I live in Ward 1, and there's been a lot of things that have happened here that I haven't been real crazy about that's happened. And it's not that any of us were against any redevelopment. It was just the amount of redevelopment that happened. And taking part of that historic downtown away. And, so I'm just like thinking, is there certain areas, if you've got a Santa Fe Trail crossing placard, wouldn't that be a historical area? Couldn't we work with the city on, getting certain areas designated historical areas?
I think the answer is yes. It could be started at the level of municipal government, and I would be for it to start that conversation. I think certification in terms of, because that preservation has its hand in the state and even federal government. So definitely one of the things we see, and Carol, you are next to speak, but what we see usually, it's very interesting. We had an email sent to governing body about libraries today. And they were asking when the libraries are going to go and reopen. One of my colleagues answered back, it's not our job, it's county's job. That's not the answer people are looking for. That's not what we are sitting here. That is true. The county controls the libraries, but you can start a conversation with the county. Who said you can't represent your people to talk to the county? The same story, if you remember, about the vaccination. Oh, it's not our job. No, it is our job. We can offer. What I'm saying is that your point is fantastic. I always thought with myself that the historic preserved areas that exist in KCMO, I'm sure they go much older than what we have in Overland Park, but at 60 years with the Santa Fe Trail, even if that is not a function of the municipal government, we could start that conversation and then see if the criteria existing at the state and the federal government even considers a part of this town as contributing assets. That's what they call it. And if that could be achieved, as I mentioned, there would be even dollars available for rejuvenation of them in harmony with history. So being historic not only puts you out of the progress, but also even helps you for the progress with certain characteristics. So that's a fantastic view that you have, and I would definitely, at the best of my capacity, I will make inquiries and let everybody know. And Carol, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm Carol Pratt. I do not live in an HOA. I live on West 90th Terrace. We do have a community designation like Glenwood Estates, but as far as I know, there's no organizing concept of trash and other things like that. A few points I want to make. One is about communication. The other is about transparency and for the public to know what's going on in these city council meetings and to have accurate note-taking and open meetings. I think that's essential. I moved to Overland Park, 2012, 2013, but it was a couple of years ago with the Santa Fe Commons, and I will always refer to that by that name. I was just appalled at what I could see was the process for having that, the gazebo taken down, everything totally dismantled. Thank God they left the main trees. And Ralph Beck, who I think is on this Zoom, he was instrumental in getting me involved by listing it on Nextdoor. Now, besides notices on Nextdoor, I don't care what the city council said, I never received anything at my household talking about Santa Fe Commons and renaming it to Thompson Park and everything else. So I was really pissed, I will say. And the other thing is about Dr. Farsi is Fassi, I'm sorry, is taking care of the greater good. You can't please everyone. There's that balance that you always have to walk, whether you're a teacher or, a government official or a manager. There's the need of the few with the need of the community, all encompassed within the mission of whatever organization or government you belong to. We in the United States, it's the US Constitution. There's Johnson County, procedures. There's Overland Park. That's what I want to say about the overall thing. And I would like a lot of transparency from the city council. In terms of educating the local communities, number one, in registering to vote and voting when the election comes, that's really important, because I saw in my ward, Paul Lyons is one of my council people, and I actually don't know how many people voted in that election. I think it was 2019. But then afterwards, all these people were pissed at what he was doing. And I thought, well, did you vote or did you not vote? So we're not always going to get people in a position, an elected position, who we want. But my opinion is, if you don't vote, then you don't have to get to complain about it. The other side, I keep seeing both sides. It's like, trying to see everything. We know in our country, a lot of people are disenfranchised by what race, what social and economic position they're in, where they live. And we saw that horrendously in the 2020 election. I don't know what's going on in Overland Park and Johnson County in terms of that. But, if you were to become mayor, I would certainly want somebody to look at that, to help people be engaged in who is going to be engaged in choosing who is going to represent them, and not by classy, slick advertising and lying, but by the truth and getting it out in a way that everybody can actually have access to it. Let's see, I have a couple more things. I think I basically said it, but Nextdoor has been a vehicle that a lot of people find out things about. I have one issue with Nextdoor is when I see a conversation where people are moaning and complaining about something, I say, write to your senator, write to your councilman, call them up, do something now, get off this Nextdoor and get on the phone. So I don't know what I don't know what responsibility the Overland Park City Council and the mayor's office have in terms of engaging, promoting people to engage in their own health, welfare, safety, where they live. So,
Carol, so far, the office of this mayor has been suppressive to any of such activities. I say that without hesitation. Without hesitation, I tell you that this mayor, and what I refer to as the status quo, has done nothing of material to engage with the people. Yes, we have a website, okay? So I'll give you an example. I suggested, I am on the video when I say, when there is a redevelopment happening to a community, we have to go and make paid advertisement to let them know that 600 apartments is going to go up in their building in 3 months from now. I did it for my campaign in 2019. Scott Hamblin has been doing it. It's a few $100s, and you essentially send these Facebook ads to all that area. And we have the money. We spend some $30,000, $40,000 a month on our social media. Okay. 2-3 years I have been saying that putting one notification on a website that nobody visits ever, and also, you know, some cards that you put in a mail and you mail to people is not going to grab attention. A lot of mail which comes to your door, it directly goes to recycling, directly without even paying attention. The time has arrived to engage social media. Not even 1 penny is spent on that. Thanks to people who are not on this call, the signage that they needed to put on something is now bigger. Otherwise, it was a minimal signage that this is going to happen. And it is correlated to the topic that we are talking about. We said history and heritage is not always a battleground. It's what happens in your neighborhood. It's what is right there. Your kid playing with the other kids in the cul-de-sac every Friday is history for you. It is what they're going to remember. And when you do chip sale and those kids are going to fall on the ground and have their face torn apart, that's also history and memories for you that you do not want, essentially. So this lack of attention and not using the best machinery to communicate with people Carol, it's quite obvious to me that there is a level of, lack of appetite for it. So I completely hear you out.
Yeah.
Did I cut? Do you have any other comments?
I have a little response to that. Yeah. We all know that many times government tries their best to keep secrets from the people they govern because they want to do what they want to do. And I'm also, I'm sorry, I lost the thought.
That's
but
okay.
Yes, I wanted to thank you because your involvement with the Santa Fe Commons and you actively talking at the city council and inviting the community come and speak and supporting us. I went to a couple meetings. I spoke at one meeting. It was very scary for me, but you were the one who met us outside and you were so approachable. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to work for you to become our mayor. I think you will transform how government is run in this city. And, I certainly would be someone to talk to my neighbors about the city council and, the government and, what do they want?
That's all we could ask for. That's all we could ask for. And I am glad that our new candidates who are here, Sheila for Ward 5 and Scott for Ward 4, I would be very grateful if you put a good word with the neighbors there, but because I truly believe that they are on the same school of thought as the voice of people needs to be heard, number one. Number two, I never forget, there was a meeting at that flower shop next to the park, and you guys invited all of the council to come and talk to you. And it was only us. It was Scott was not on the city council at that point. I show up, there is nobody else. And those times, Carol, you guys were educating me about the problems. Those were my first times to open my eyes and go beyond the luster of this is the greatest city in the world. There is nothing wrong here. That was quite an education for me when a simple request of the people were completely ignored. In less than 2 weeks, they had bulldozers there demolishing that gazebo. I have never seen government act so fast, ever. Amazing.
Yeah.
So who wants to comment on that?
I would like a little anecdote. I lived in Marin County, California, years ago, and the population of Marin County voted against building a new jail. Sometime in the next 2 years, all of a sudden, there was a new jail built. I don't know what went on to do that, but it sounds very similar. They had board of supervisors for the county to, maybe what's going on locally here. So then, we as voters need to know that our vote really does count and our voice will be heard. And Scott, you were talking about listening, people listening, and I'm blanking on the other Scott, right? That maybe anybody who becomes a city council member must go to a training on communication skills, nonviolent communication skills, on how to listen. Seriously.
That's great.
Faris, can I say something?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I will tell you this, Carol, and this is probably a little preemptive from what I'm going to list on my website, but I plan on setting a weekend a month to set up appointments to talk to those that are going to vote for me and that I'm going to represent, to bring to me the concerns. And I will actually work that weekend working through appointments with people so that they can have the ability to talk directly to me, one-on-one, to voice their concerns, let me know what they're thinking. And I will do that religiously. And I'm going to start that here soon, even though I'm not elected, so that I can understand exactly where the people in my ward are coming from. And to your point, you will have that opportunity to talk to me one-on-one, just like Faris has given the opportunity for people to call in. And I think every council person should do that. I'm not just going to show up on a Monday night and throw a vote out there because of what I think, because it's not about what I think. And I appreciate your concern and your thoughts.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, and I just kind of follow up on what Mr. Moser said there. You hit the nail on the head with it's not just what you think. And one of the things is, Dr. Farassati and I, we voted separately on different issues. That's why we're there, right? We don't have to agree on everything. We have different views, we have different backgrounds. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's perfectly fine, and we respect each other for it. But yeah, that's kind of one of the issues we run into, is that the sense I get the feeling, the kind of the status quo, as Faris said, is that, well, they don't really know what's best for them. And my opinion is, for instance, just here in the last couple of weeks, I got contacted by people that wanted a chance to get their voice heard in front of city council. I don't know if I agree with what they're proposing, but I do absolutely 100% believe that they deserve the right to present their case, their argument, their facts, and that we should have to, and that we need to listen to that. And so it's not about, and I think we see a lot of that right now. It's like, well, I don't like that idea, so therefore it will not be an agenda item. Well, if you got a group of advocates or anything coming to you, it should be an agenda item, and they should get their chance to talk. I don't want to steal everything here, but she mentioned so many things there that just kind of got me going about one of the, you talked about the signs that had to get bigger, where it used to be they literally take a sign that said redevelopment is going to happen here. It was about the size of a license plate. They put it on just a wooden stick and put it out in the middle of this 20-acre field. And that was there, and then they'd publish it in what previously was I think Olathe Daily News, and then maybe some other legal record that you have to subscribe to, and met their minimum requirement. And that's when Dr. Farassati started proposing, if you're not familiar with how Facebook ads work, you can geofence them. Like you can literally get on there and said, I want this item to inform everybody in this specific location, and it's very inexpensive, and it can absolutely be done. And our PR people, they know that. But going all the way back to voting, which is where I think we started with this, and something I wanted to say about this is one of the reasons my opinion, one of the reasons we see what I consider career politicians on the council, and you see these people elected over and over again, but yet you go around town and it's hard to find the person that supports them, is because they have, it takes less than a couple thousand votes to win a council seat. And they've been around, they have built-in votes. I'll just throw it out there. Special interest, built-in votes. And it's an off-year election, so it's not like your people are showing up to vote for the president and then they're picking their council members. You go, Faris will be the top of the ticket this year. So people need a reason to vote. So the importance of getting out there and reminding your neighbors and doing anything you can to get out the vote, because the low voter turnout works in their favor every time, because they can bank on a certain amount of votes. The people or the companies they've given money to and all their employees. There's 1,000 votes baked in right there, that anyone else, a challenger, has to get twice as many people a reason to go. So it's an incredible challenge. I was told when I started running that there was an 85% chance that I would lose the election, even if my incumbent candidate did not run a campaign. That's the statistics I was given. So yeah, I can't overstress the importance of any help you can give to tell people about these, the candidates out there, like the ones on here tonight that are running to listen to the people, a mayor that's willing to put anything on the agenda that people want, whether he agrees or not. Let's remove procedural rules. Let's inform the public, and that's just simply the right way to do it. We got someone willing to do it, so let's do it, but we got to tell people. And that's my rant.
That's fantastic. What about the sleepy? Yes, Mr. Malik, go ahead, please.
The topic is very interesting for me, the history and heritage, because I've been part of it partially only for the last 50 years. I started in the area 95th and Covera, where there was no Oak Park Mall at that time. So you can imagine that how I've seen the developments. And I'm still, for the last 20 years, I've been a resident of Overland Park in Ward 5, where Faris has well represented my ward. And I'm very pleased to meet the new candidate, Sheila. So I will be glad to be working with you. I just want to say that, I'm not totally disheartened or disappointed. Of course, there's always a term of there goes the neighborhood. We see the things coming out. Of course, currently the apartment is a big challenge. But prior to that was not too long ago, before this pandemic thing, was the border war between the Missouri and Kansas side. There's always, that this company should move here or should not move here. Or, there was always a struggle. So I don't want to make a lot of comments on it, but I just want to say that the Overland Park kept on growing, actually, mainly for the reason that there was a couple of annexation of the land to the south. Of course, that's kind of saturated now, but there's still a lot of potential to the city, and it's still one of the top cities in the nation. So hopefully that only thing is that it needs more organization and vision and non-partisan efforts. Thank you.
Excellent. What about the sleepy city comment? Again, because again, like honestly, it gets a little bit annoying to me when they refer to Overland Park as a sleepy city. I just don't understand. So can somebody please talk about if they refer to Overland Park as a sleepy city, is that something we need to wake up, or like which one? Can somebody give us some enlightenment on that? Anyone? Yes. Sarah,
I'll speak. I've never heard that term, but I've heard the term bedroom community. Bedroom community, in my mind, not specifically Overland Park, is a community that's outside a dense urban area where people live and they commute to their jobs, but they don't really get involved in the place that their home is. So I don't know if that's what they meant.
I think that parlays into it a little bit. Yeah.
I think it stems these labels, a sleepy community, bedroom community. It comes as a background for legitimization of apartment invasion. As if the suburban, like what Mr. Strang was hoping to achieve as a park community, and it's old, it's passé, and the solution to it is thousands upon thousands of apartments everywhere. Every parcel that you could turn to an apartment, it should be turned to an apartment complex. I think there is a little bit of background intentions to essentially attack part of the character of Overland Park and legitimize that, okay, now this parcel which was supposed to be 60 single family houses needs to be 400 apartments. Then you have another part of legitimacy, which again, we are putting in the context of heritage. It comes to the fact that if we build a lot of apartments here, it will become cheap, essentially. So these two kind of like go hand to hand of, we have to really drastically blow this place out of proportion. That's what I think part of that comes from, which I personally do not agree with. I think we have to have a scientifically oriented approach. All different parts of accommodation do not constantly override the master plan and do not ruin the character of Overland Park for everybody. That's what I have heard from people over and over again.
Yeah, and you hear the term future luxury blight. I mean, like you said, I think there is some that if we build enough apartments, there'll be so much supply that the prices will drop. But the reality is, they're building luxury apartments. They can't drop those prices so much, or they'll be bank owned. So it's not, I don't know how much realism there is into that expectation. If they expect the developer to accept rent less than they owe themselves, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
So people who haven't spoken, Marshall, Ralph, Mark, Dylan, Jerry, Musa, Melissa, if you want to talk, we are listening. If not, I'll show you one screen. So here is upcoming the website. My current website doesn't have this information. It will be there. So as you can see here is, the one item I will be pursuing is enhance the voice of the people. I did that from a year ago by establishing public comments, and Scott significantly fought for it, to both of us. Now we have the public comments. You can come in front of the council and speak for 30 minutes. And let's remember Gina Burke, who was the third council person who significantly supported that. And it took 13 months to get that done, but it's done. But there are a number of advisory councils that I would like to establish. One is Advisory Council on Aging and one is on Heritage. And these essentially go hand to hand in terms of maybe some of the ideas that Kelly had, that the Advisory Council on Heritage could pursue heritage preservation of certain parts of Overland Park officially. And as you can see, we also have in our minds, Advisory Council on Community Action, which essentially is the strongest link between decisions that are being made and will be made with the people of Overland Park. So that's where the HOA representatives, the liaisons with the community could come and, preempt any decision that may not rhyme well with them. They could essentially be there together, review, inform, and put the information out there. That's just I wanted to show you and hopefully get feedback from you about this. But I guess we are getting 6:27, and if anybody wants to talk about anything from this point of view, please go ahead. Otherwise, we are approaching almost the end of it. I took the notes of everything who has said anything. I will review this video again, but who else wants to speak?
I would like to speak about the density and the apartment buildings. And I'm not against apartment buildings. I lived in them for many years when I lived in New York and other places. I think what's lacking is appropriate planning and vision to the future of what we want Overland Park and Johnson County to be like. And what I have seen in the number of years, 2 years, what happened at the corner of like Marty and 80th Street down those like 4 buildings, they cut off tremendous amounts of sunlight. And I don't know if anybody ever did a study to see the environmental impact, sunlight on the sidewalks and the people there. The other point about high density living, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Palo Solari in Arizona, they have these incredible environmentally supported communities, but they have huge buildings where everybody lives and they can live in the same building and work there, and then they have lots of parks. Now, I'm not saying I would be happy living like that, or, you would be happy living like that. All I'm saying is it's the constant theme here. Listen to the people who live here.
Right. That's the end
thank
of it.
you. Yeah. And thank you for creating these incredibly helpful, educational, and inspiring opportunities for us to speak, listen, and then take action.
Absolutely, and this will go on Facebook, so more people would see it.
And I got a request for you, Dr. Farassati. If there is no other hands, something I just caught when you pulled the website up that if you wouldn't mind explaining. When I noticed right next to what you were talking about, there was promoting our schools. One thing I've noticed is every candidate, you go to their websites and it's support public education, and that's just what comes across as everyone supports public education. Of course they do. Who's going to say they don't? But could you explain what supporting public education is to you?
Sure, and that ties in with this heritage that we have. What is more important for our heritage in Overland Park than the education of our kids? I mean, really, when you really look at it. So I'm just going to read that paragraph, and excuse me if it has any grammatical mistakes. We are still working on it, but it says, stop the current attack on public education by preserving public schools' share of property tax dollars. It's very simple. It's very simple. Right now, the number one attraction of Overland Park being public education, is under attack by the government of Overland Park. How? They give their bacon away. And give me an example, $60 million out of Shawnee Mission School District by one vote in December 2019, only for one project. And that's when I announced that I'm going to run for mayor. Every unjustified property tax write-off to multi-million-dollar development takes money out of budget of our public schools and Johnson County Community College. This threatens the future of our children. It's very quite, one-to-one relationship. You give their bacon away and you are hurting them. Now, one more time, if there was a significantly other public benefit behind it, removal of blight, removal of crime-infested areas, some areas which is environmentally hazardous, we can eat that, we can accept that. Sometimes you have to bite the bullet, but just because a bunch of lobbyists come and mumbo jumbo some essentially illogical reasons, you give out $200 million in one night to yank out a golf course and make it $1.6 million of concrete. So that also, again, it's not really out of our topic of conversation tonight, because what we will see in 20 years as our heritage has passed, if our public education is constantly being defunded by municipal government, what would be there? Who would come here? Who would participate in building this city if one bound after bound has to be put on your property tax to fund the schools that you are giving their shares of the property taxes away to multi-billion-dollar developers?
Yeah.
You have a comment, Scott?
Yeah. I just wanted you to kind of explain that, because it's something I've noticed looking around, and anybody running for city council be out of their mind not to say they support public education, clearly. But you're also not running for the school board. So what is their plan? I would ask you to challenge the other ones on that. Is the biggest role we play is to not defund them, and so anyway, that's what I want you to expand on the difference between just talk and actual action, I guess, is what I'm.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was very, very educational and informative for me. And any other comments anybody might have from the people who haven't spoken?
Yeah, I want to throw one thing out. Is there any way of stopping the Brook Ridge development thing? That is going to be a disaster at 103rd and Antioch. There's no way it can't be a traffic disaster and life. People are going to get hurt. That's more astounding than the Santa Fe Commons fiasco.
What you realize, Carol, is that 2 phases of that project have been approved. There are other phases that will come in front of the council, number 1. Number 2, from the legal point of view, and Scott should chime in here, some things which have been approved have been approved. That damage is there. But if they not perform, if they miss the deadlines, then that's the opportunity for the city to act. But you have to have people who are willing to act in that regard. But I believe with that project, we will be looking at other phases, which are going to come after that. So there is, the other phases coming. And then the question is, what deadlines and what sort of extensions can somebody, request? Of course, I can't comment on how I'm going to vote about a specific project because of my quasi-judicial. But if you're asking about the procedure involved, what we know, which is public comments, is that publicly known is that the other phases will be here. And we also know that some of these approvals that have been achieved are time sensitive, so to speak.
So what can you do to make sure the community knows the deadlines, when the votes are going to happen, and what's going on before the votes? So if we want to, we can go to the meeting.
Right. So say that's our essential function, is to put it on our social media, try to get people to share the knowledge, hopefully Sheila and Scott will be in a position to help in future significantly with this. Talk to community leaders. I am in constant communication with that community, just people who are just like you, who are community leaders. We could inform you that is going to happen, and we have been trying to do that. And a good example of it is Ranch Mart, which was neither in my ward or Scott's ward, but we met with them like a couple of times, and Tony is here as a community leader there. So that we are not going to sit on our chairs. We are going to go there and try to disseminate the information. So that is what, and that's my promise, either as your council member or the mayor, that you will see me in people's backyards talking to them, as I believe I have done so far.
Yeah, and one thing I'll throw out there is that we, even as council members, we're put in a tight spot. So on Thursday night, I don't know, say 5 o'clock or after, we get the agenda of what's going to be on the city council meeting Monday. But prior to that, we have no knowledge other than if you have, the stamina to sit through all the committee meetings, then you'll get an idea of what's headed to council. You won't know exactly when. I just happen to know that Brook Ridge has a big deadline coming up in June, and that's from watching committee meetings. When that'll hit the council, I don't know, but that's all under mayor control. So that is something a mayor could make a difference in by putting agenda topics and make it clear when those items are going to be discussed, and I've seen Faris is a big believer in that. We don't jump into any votes until there's been significant discussion on both sides. So, none of the put it out Friday and let's pull a surprise vote on Monday. So, so the mayor has a lot of control over that, mechanically or procedurally.
Anything else? Another issue I have had is this. Sometimes you see these important issues on the agenda all packed in one meeting. Of course, there are some legalities and certain deadlines are approaching. But one thing I want to do is that I want to harmonize these agendas in a way that you shouldn't be in a situation you need until 2 a.m. to talk about your issue. Again, we have to look into legalities because certain things have to follow in a certain number of days. But the enforcing somebody to come at 2 a.m. and talk, or sitting in a council meeting until 3 in the morning, in terms of Tony, when Tony was there talking about Ranch Mart, if that is not absolutely necessary, in my opinion, is a tool of suppression. If it's not absolutely necessary, is a way to get people out of there. And I really want a review of these, essentially the ways to put a certain level of agendas together so people could come and really, they don't need to be there for 6 hours. I have seen many meetings that very important items are right on the back of each other. And the meeting last time we went with Tony was 3:20 a.m. We went home or something like that.
And I don't think Monday we have a meeting this Monday, and I don't think it'll be as long as this, but nonetheless, the probably most discussed issue is an issue that we have residents that actually filed a petition to protest. And yes, the agenda flows in a certain way, and that's currently listed as absolute the dead last thing we're going to talk about. So if you want to go to the meeting, you're going to have to sit through everything to get your opportunity to participate in the public hearing for that. And we seem to see that a lot. The bigger issues, the later. I feel personally, I can't speak for Faris. I feel it's a form of suppression, and it's the mayor's. What do they call it? It's the mayor's right. They have mayor's privilege to move the agenda around. So he could. The mayor can look and say, well, it looks like we have a lot of people here for the last issue, so I'm going to use mayor's privilege and put that first and do the right thing. So that is something that can happen. But like I said, that what he's saying about making them late at night, it does happen.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I will ask our two candidates to give us comments for closing, and then I appreciate your time and dedication. Thank you very much. So Sheila first, probably closing comments.
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to participate with you in these online discussions. I learn something new every discussion. I have a better understanding of what some of the concerns are within our community, even though if I have the privilege of being elected for Ward 5, I have an obligation to be the voice of all wards. And I want to be a good community leader. And so I just thank you for inviting me to these discussions and for everyone's willingness to share your vision, your concerns, your suggestions on how to make this a better place to live, work, and play. I just appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mr. Mosher?
Well, I will tell you that I do learn something from every time I sit through and listen to Faris talk and get the information out to everyone. I'm not a politician. I'm a normal person like all the rest of the folks out there. And I don't plan on being a politician, but I do plan on listening. And I plan on working within my ward and within all wards to make the right choices for Overland Park. And I learn something new every day. And I'm going to be there for you. And I'm going to do the right thing and make sure that the voice is heard. I want to get the vote out. I want to stop the status quo. And I want to start a new era where we're all responsible for the reason why people put us in these positions. So I do appreciate the opportunity. I'm going through a rough spell right now, but just personally, but I'm on board 1,000%. And thank you, Faris, for all that you've done and all that you're doing for the community. And the communication is excellent. And I appreciate everybody listening.
I appreciate it. I promised Steve Weeks to read his comment that he sent me. He couldn't be here. He said, can't join, but do have a comment. Good schools built JOCO and OP, not tax breaks for developers, especially those who built luxury apartments and unnecessary multi-use projects. And I promised to him that I will read this comment. I also, let me share one more thing with you. So first one is Sheila's website, and Scott Mosher's website will be up very soon. So that's Sheila Rodriguez Overland Park, and Sheila for OP is the website. That's her website. Please read it and also specifically pass it to your friends who are in Ward 5. And this is my current website, which would be significantly changed, but farisforop.com. Please go there, and there is a level of information, and if there is possible to make a donation to both campaigns, please do so. If not, just tell your neighbors and friends about the message, and we look forward to next time to share Scott's website, Scott Mosher's website as well. The next topic that we're gonna have is we're gonna put it out there, but we probably will have a conversation series on the breed-specific ban, as well as another conversation series on inclusivity in Overland Park with some guest speakers. And then we will have a conversation series on the public education, because that's extremely important, and we need to look at the data. We need to look at the data to see who voted for what and what did that do to public education at the end of the day with the statistics. And hopefully we get to that. With that, if there is any other comments, if not, going once, twice.
I've already spoke too much, but I just Faris and I have been on the council together for the past year, and I couldn't appreciate and more than what is happening right now with Sheila and Scott Moser stepping up simply for the same reason I did, for the same reason Faris did. I said it in the last meeting. Have a look at this guy's resume. He's not here to meet clients, network, or improve his resume. He's here for you, and that's the same reason we did it. And none of us have to agree. We're just asking for independent thought on the council. And so to see people like Sheila and Scott step up is just phenomenal. And
we are looking for the new ones.
Yes.
I have my eyes on certain people in this meeting, which
there's no
we are looking for new ones to step up. And again, your community leadership is fantastic, but we need the votes to make things happen on the council. And I am extremely enthusiastic about this wave coming of organic candidates.
Yeah.
Candidates who represent the people out there, just like Sheila said. We have a planning commission. Let's have that an image of the society that we live in terms of where is the teacher there? Where is the artist there? Where is where is somebody from the historical society there? This is the image that we need to produce on the whole government of Overland Park, and in my opinion, in planning commission, and also in a number of task forces that I would like to put together.
So I have two words, if I can say them correctly.
Please.
2 words, if I can speak them
Please,
correctly.
Yeah.
Noblesse oblige. And what I understand that is, noblesse oblige, the people in power have an obligation to take care of the common, to take care of all of us.
That is true.
Yes.
And that's the $20 reward, which was given to me free of charge.
Yeah. And it seems so common sense, doesn't it? But we're having to almost have a revolution to get there, which is unfortunate.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
We're gonna have some conversation. Hopefully we could switch to in person as the vaccination moves on. But for the next, I think, month and a half, we are on Zoom. Please, if you're not on my Facebook, Faris Farassati, please join the Facebook. Scott, Sheila, all the Facebooks are available. You will get the notifications. Scott Mosher, you have the Facebook up yet?
No, I do not, but I'm going to work on it this week.
You'll get that.
We could probably cut you some slack there.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.